his own language that goes to his heart. Language plays a very important role in connecting us to our needs. A language filled with politeness, compassion, love for others, uh, magic works like a magic, not only for others but for us from within. In this webinar, we are going to introduce participants to this magic language under the term nonviolent communication. So, in order to help out people who work with Childline for Children, Childline India Foundation, with the support from HCL Foundation, is hosting a webinar in English today on topic nonviolent communication. With the technical expertise from Alternative Story Bengaluru, live on YouTube and Zoom. Similarly, webinar will be held in Hindi and Kannada language as well. I welcome today's resource person from Alternative Story, Miss Shreya Narayan. Welcome, Shreya ma'am. Shreya ma'am holds a master's degree in counseling psychology from Christ University, Bangalore. Her experience includes working with corporate organizations, young professionals, and children. Now, I may call upon Mr. Sukendu Bank, M&E officer from CKH, from Childline India Foundation, to set the context for today's session. Thank you.
Yeah,
Over to you.
yeah. Thank you, Vajanti. A very good and a very warm morning to all of you, to all the participants. As I have been entrusted with the responsibility of just setting the tone of for this webinar, I would start by saying, okay, when it comes to humans, there are some distinctive features that humans have that other members of the animal kingdom they don't have. And one of such distinctive features is that humans are social beings. Humans cannot live in isolation. And when it comes to humans, like human society becomes a synonymous term with humanity. So though the nature and form of society may vary from one place to another, but then humans living without a society is not known to us, and that tends to show since we are social beings, we cannot live in isolation. So when it comes to interaction, communication, and language to play a major role. But taking into consideration the present scenario that we are facing with COVID-19 situation, pandemic situation, it has a significant impact on each and every aspect of our life. Virtually every sphere of human life has been affected by this phenomena. And taking into consideration the complexity and maybe the unpredictable nature of the situation that we are facing, which we have not faced in our lives, at times humans, that tends to develop a very unstable mental frame of mind. And in this present situations, we have come across concepts like social distancing, which has become a part and parcel of our daily life. The term itself signifies a physical distance that we should have between individuals, but on the other side of it, it has contributed towards having a social and psychological distance among not only individuals but within individuals themselves. And we are facing, especially with regard to our frontline workers, we are in a situation where we are not aware of what exactly we are experiencing, and what we are thinking and what we are doing. And we are less aware of ourselves as well as others as well. So this is a very tricky situation that we are in, unless and until we are aware of what we are thinking about the situation and how we are behaving. So it have a profound impact on the kind of services that we deliver at the field level. At times the situation has given rise to certain complexities where people they have become more judgmental, and they go for blame gaming. They are more critical when it comes to their way of thinking and their way of doing work, as well as what others think. And to us, we are not at all connected. Maybe we are facing difficulties in when it comes to connecting to the real situation that lies at the field level. and we are not even confident of considering what is important to us and what is important to others. And this creates a very difficult scenario when it comes to connecting individuals who are in difficult circumstances with the kind of need that they have, and this in a way can affect our service delivery mechanisms in a very adverse manner. So when it comes to this concept, I believe like there are sessions on this thing. Just a brief about the concept of nonviolent communication. So it's fairly a very new concept to us, but then like they use a synonymous term. As far as my knowledge is concerned, they use a synonymous term with this concept, and they say it as like nonviolent form of communication is also termed as compassionate communication, and it speaks for the life of the language of life. So basically it's a concept which offers a very basic yet a very effective framework which help us to be more aware of what we are thinking, what we are doing, and what we are listening, in a way that focuses on three main aspects. One, like developing a sense of self empathy, empathy towards others, as well as a very honest representation of one's feelings, of one's expression with regard to things that they come in your own way, in your way. So that's it from me. So it was a very brief thing. So definitely there is a lot of things that we are going to learn from this webinar with regard to this topic, which is quite new to us, but then it would be very effective for all of us, including our colleagues who have come from various child lines, as to like have a very like has to have certain tips by which we can understand better about our own feelings, about our own beliefs, about the things that we are doing, as well as what people want from us. And we should not be judgmental, rather we should have a very neutral ground which would help us in analyzing ourselves as well as the clients that we are working with in terms of their needs, and connecting their needs to the kind of service providers that we have in place. Thank you. Thanks for me. So over to the resource persons that we have from like alternative stories for their presentations. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I think that was an extremely good context setting, even by Vajanti and Sukhendu. I think it was a perfect summary of what I am about to speak about today. One thing is, when both of you were talking, the voice was breaking quite a bit for me. So I'm not sure if it's my connection. So in case it is my connection, please let me know. Try and do something, maybe turn off the video and see if it gets better or not. Right now I am just trying to share my screen. um, yeah. So can you please confirm if you can see the screen?
Yeah, we can, ma'am. We
Yes.
can.
Yes, yes.
It's visible.
All right. Okay, great. Okay. So, firstly, Sukhendu and Vajanti really began by telling us about communication, about telling us about language, right? And it's very interesting to think that all of us have this in common, right? Human beings in general communicate through language, and we're probably the only species that has such an organized form of symbols, words, sounds that convey a meaning, right? Sometimes one word, sometimes one syllable can have a universal meaning, right? For example, if I shake my head, or if I nod, or if I do this. right? All of these things have a meaning. It has a language. Aggressively, if somebody comes and holds one's collar, right, you don't need to know language to know what is happening. You know that there is a certain attack, you know that that's aggression, you know that a fight is about to take place, right? So even though language is something we associate with, let's say, today we have English, Hindi, Kannada, um, Tamil, Telugu, Bengali, all of these languages. What I'm saying is, universally there are certain collection of symbols, collection of sounds and gestures that also mean something, right? At a glance, when I say non-violent communication, we may feel like it doesn't apply to us, right? We're not out there beating up people, we're not out there shouting and abusing. So we feel like maybe it's not meant for us, right? But what I am about to say today is that all of us here, to an extent, have a tendency to communicate or at least think violently, right? About ourselves, about those who are around us, right? So we are going to understand a little bit about what violence is, right? What qualifies as violence? Unknowingly, the fact that when we're engaging in this, what is the impact that it has on our life? And how can we communicate non-violently? Is there a benefit in doing that? Okay. So right now, at the start itself, I want to ask you, just think about it. Why do you think language came about among human beings? Why do you think we came up with a language? Right now, I'm speaking in English, but way before there was spoken language that even started. What started is little symbols, right? Little pictures, little images that were probably drawn on caves, right? Where cavemen tried to communicate to each other. Why do you think we like, or what do you think is the need behind communication? Does anybody have an answer? I mean, there are no right or wrong answers. So just according to you, what you feel was the need behind language. What do you think is the need behind communication?
It's to exchange ideas or
Okay.
communicate what uh, communicate one wants to say to the others, or exchange of
Hmm.
ideas and views.
Hmm. 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 Yeah. Yeah. You said something very interesting, Nirish. Nirish said want, right? Nirish said want. And I think that's a very, very interesting word, because I feel like that's one of the main reasons why language came about. To tell people what we want, to tell people what we need, right? Um, I want a glass of water, or I need protection, or there is a wild animal, we need to run, we need to save ourselves. These are basic survival strategies that were required, right? As Sukhendu said, humans have always been in groups, humans have always been in society. Therefore, we needed each other in order to protect ourselves, in order to survive as a race, right? Therefore, as a species. So, therefore, we needed language to tell each other what we want, to tell each other what we need, right? And that's what I'm going to ask you to do right now. Do this task with me, right? What I want you to do is take a piece of paper and write down, just think about your life, right? Forget what we're talking about today, forget what is happening in office. Just think about your life, close your eyes, and think about maybe two, three needs that you have. Yeah. Just any random two, three needs that you have. And write that down in paper. I'll give you I'll give you a minute. And if you are comfortable, Share with me one need that you have, right? I'm saying that you can write 2 3 for yourself personally, but if you can, for the help of our discussion, it would be nice if you can put down, let's say in the chat box, one need that you have. Okay. So can we get some more responses, please? My question was, can we discuss maybe a need that you have for life? It can be even, for example, I want to be happy, I want to be healthy, I want to be with my family's happiness, right? I want success, whatever it is, right? It's yours, right? Therefore, I want you to take a moment, I want you to connect, tune in with yourself, and accept that this is a need that I have, this is a need that is important to me, this is what I want from my life. Can you confirm if my question was clear? Help me, because if it's not, then I'll rephrase it in another way. Would anyone like me to repeat what I said?
I think Shreya, you are clear about your question. I think we are confused of which need to write, because we have plenty of needs, and
Yeah.
also some are, is it a need or want? Maybe confused of the need and
Okay. Let's think about, it doesn't have to be
need are basically basic things.
yeah, it does not have to be the most
Basic things,
important.
needs are basic.
Yeah, it does not have to be the most important, because I think that confusion can come in there where you say, what is the most important? What do I want more than anything? So let's not get into that. But one thing that's just that you think is important in life, right? Anything that you want for yourself, which you think is important for your life, and because it's related to you, because it's related to your life, there's no right or wrong answer, right? You get to decide what is right and what is not right. So, all right, let me assume that you have something written down. Okay, and I'm going to move on. I'm going to use something general, something generic that I can use as an example for the way forward, because that was the reason why I asked you, so that I can use it in the presentation. So, right. So I'm assuming that we all have needs, right? We all have things that are important to us, right? I'm going to go with the example of health. I need health. I need happiness. I need families' happiness. I need success, right? I need to earn money, right? I need professional growth. Okay, Let's go with these as examples because I feel like it's something that we all might connect with at some point. So let's think about what is a typical way to communicate. Okay. Now, let's say, for example, when we think about violence, right? When we think about how to communicate, I'm going to give you this scenario and you tell me what is a typical way one would communicate, right? Um, so let's say that there is a fight going on. Okay. Let's say that there is a fight going on and somebody says that you don't know who you're messed with, right? You don't know who I am. I will show you, right? I will make you regret what you are telling me, because this is who I am. Because I am a strong person. I am very well connected, right? So let's say if you hear this from someone, if person A hears this from another person, what do you think they would typically say? What do you think they would how would they react? Any responses? So typically there might be anger, right? There might be anger. You might want to show them that you are also as important, you are also as strong, you are also as connected as they are, right? So if somebody tells you these things, somebody shows you anger, you also feel like showing them anger, right? So therefore, when we engage in such kind of communication, the anger escalates, right? And without realizing, this seems to be happening in our own everyday life, right? I'll tell you how. Now, I'm going to give you an example of a couple of statements that we tend to tell ourselves, and you have to tell me whether this is violence or not. Okay, can we do that? So I'm going to read out a statement, and in the chat box, you have to say violence or not violence. Okay, can we do that? All right. So my first statement is, you're talking too much. Okay, I'll show you who I am. Is this violence or not violence? Okay, any other responses? I'll give the answers in the end as soon as there are five statements. So after I complete all the five, I'll come back and give answers for each. But any other responses for this? You're talking too much. I'll show you who I am. Is this violence or not violence? All right. Anybody else? I'm looking at the chat responses so you can put in your answers in chat. All right. Let's move on to the next one. Do you know who I am? You've messed with the wrong person. Okay. Do you know who I am? You've messed with the wrong person. All right. Now the third one. Your sister is so good at household work. Learn from her. Your sister is so good at household work. Learn from her. Is that violence or not violence? All right. Okay. All right. Okay. Now the next one. You can never get a good bonus in your office. I've lost hope. You can never get a good bonus in your office. I've lost hope. Is that violence or non-violence? Okay. All right. Now the last one. That whole community is full of greedy people. Best to keep our distance from them. That whole community is full of greedy people. It's best to keep our distance from them. Is that violence or non-violence? Okay. All right. Any other responses? Okay, so here is the thing. Every statement that I gave you right now are all examples of violent communication and violent thinking, right? So, what I have been trying to say since the beginning of this presentation is that only physical and verbal abuse is not qualified as violence. Anything that causes hurt to somebody can be classified as violence, right? Let's go over it again. You're talking too much. I'll show you. Do you know who I am? You've messed with the wrong person, right? All of this signifies that you are going to that you're trying to cause some kind of a fear in the other person. You're trying to cause some kind of a harm, some kind of a hurt to the other person. Your sister is so good, learn from her. You can never get a good bonus. That whole community is greedy, right? You through all of this, the thing is, we don't realize that this is violence because it's so part of our everyday, right? When we're sitting for lunch, when we go out for our coffee breaks, when we're sitting with friends, it's become so normal for us to speak bad about others, to speak bad about ourselves, that we don't realize that this is actually violent thinking and violent communication, right? Which is why I'm giving you an example here and saying that any kind of communication that, number one, causes hurt, number two, causes harm, number three, causes pain. And number four, anything that blocks compassion is called violent communication. Right? So, all of the statements that I gave you were forms of violent communication. Okay? And I will be speaking to you a little bit about that right now. What qualifies for violence, right? Um, any questions, please let me know at any point. Okay. Now, what why is this classified as violence, right? What is classified as violence, first of all? Making moralistic judgments, to say that somebody is wrong, to say that I am wrong or somebody else is wrong. Because here, our focus, what we're looking at, is only an analysis, right? Who is right, who is wrong, what is wrong, what was wrong, instead of looking at our needs, right? Like I said, the reason why we communicate is our needs, right? That's why we communicate. So instead of looking at our needs, when we get down to thinking about who is wrong and who is bad, that is a form of violent thinking and violent communication, right? For example, let's say that we say that person is too selfish, right? That person has been watching TV all day, that person is lazy, right? When we blame somebody, when we insult someone, when we say that they are never capable um, of stopping alcohol, right? For example, if we say that someone cannot stop alcohol, cannot stop drinking alcohol, that's a blame, that's an insult, that we're putting them down, right? So what does it do? It causes harm, it causes pain, it causes some kind of a, I mean, it disconnects you from the person, because the person then feels angry and wants to defend themselves, right? So whenever we are passing moral judgments about what is wrong and what is bad, that is a form of violent communication, right? Labeling someone as something, criticizing someone, is a form of Okay. So, yeah, so like I said, moralistic judgments, when we are blaming, insulting, putting down somebody, and all of this holds true for us as well, right? When we're putting down ourselves, when we're saying that I'm not capable of doing anything good, right? I'm not capable um, of getting a good raise or getting a good feedback at office, or when I say that I'm not capable of doing anything else in life, right? That is a form of violent communication as well, right? Because the impact that it has on us, it disconnects us from our core, right? It makes us feel very alienated from ourselves. It makes us it takes away the compassion that we should have for ourselves, right? That, and making comparisons. For example, the older sister looks much better than the younger sister, right? We hear that a lot between siblings. This one is better in studies, this one looks better. Or let's say we hear it in terms of that child got so much marks and you also go to the same tuition, how come you can't get the same marks as that child, right? Making comparisons is also something that fosters the hurt, that fosters the pain. It alienates you from the person, it removes the compassion between two people, right? Therefore, this also is a form of violent communication. And the third thing is a very interesting concept. I want you to think about it. It's denying responsibility. A lot of us say this, right? Again, I'm using sentences that all of us use in our everyday life to bring out the fact that we don't regard this as violence, but there is good reason to do that. Okay. So the third one is denying of responsibility. For example, saying I hit my child because he is very naughty, right? Here you're saying it's not my responsibility, I have to hit him because he is naughty, right? Or you say that I drink because my life is tragic, right? Or let's say, for example, you say that I go to work only because I have to. I go to work because I have to provide for my family, right? Or I smoke because everyone smokes, so it's not a big deal, right? So tell me if you understand this. But what I'm saying is, a lot of times we behave very like we are passive, right? We're very passive and we're allowing things to happen to us. I hit my child, I smoke, I drink, or let's say I have to go to work because I don't have a choice. So whenever we say that it's not my responsibility, I'm not choosing to do this, what can happen is that we can tend to feel very bored, very lethargic, very unmotivated, very demotivated about what we are doing, right? And hence it harbors unpleasant feelings for that task, right? So instead of that, let's say for example, I said I choose to go to work because I want to be financially independent. I choose to go to work because I want to provide for my family. I choose to go to work because I want to have a comfortable life, right? When you realize, or when you say that I am choosing to do something, right, it makes a huge difference when compared to feeling forced to do something, right? Similarly, for example, I I chose to hit my child because actually what I wanted to do is for him to listen to me, right? And when you take up that responsibility, you realize that you have a choice, right? You don't have to do something. You have a choice about whether you want to let go of something or whether you want to fulfill that basic need through another way, right? I hope it's clear until now. If there are any questions, please stop me and ask me, right? So let's quickly think about what we've done until now. We've spoken about nonviolent communication. I gave you statements and I asked you to think about what is violence and what is not violence. Then we defined violence to say anything that causes harm, that causes pain, that causes hurt, anything that blocks compassion within yourself and between people can be regarded as violent communication. And here are some examples of violent communication where you look for wrongness, where you look for something that's bad instead of focusing on your need, where you look at making comparisons between people or comparisons between yourself and somebody else instead of looking at what exactly you need. And the third one is you deny responsibility of something, right? Instead of taking responsibility and saying that, okay, I have this need, that's why I did this, you're denying responsibility and saying that I did it just because I have to, right? So all of this takes us away from our needs, takes us away from what we actually want, what we actually need and like and desire and want for ourselves in our lives. Yeah. So the goal behind this presentation is for us to feel more connected to what we want, is for us to realize what is truly our need. So what is the impact of communicating violently? Anger, right? We may feel angry, we may feel fear as well. So anger, fear, the other person might get defensive, they might want to defend themselves when we criticize them. How many times has it happened in our families? Think about it, that we tell someone that I'm not important to you, right? Your work is more important to you. I don't even matter to you, right? Or your mother matters more to me, more to you than I matter to you, right? We hear these sentences a lot in our families. What does it mean? It basically means that the other person wants your company, they want your time, they want you to sit with them, they want to feel important, they want to feel prioritized. um, and how they are expressing it is by telling you that your mother is more important to you than I am, when actually what they want is your time, is your attention, is your love and your support, right? So, what happens when we communicate violently is that core need that is there within each of us, we get alienated from it, right? We don't communicate our needs correctly, and therefore there is a higher chance that that our needs are not met, right? So it can cause anger, it can cause fear, it can cause defensiveness, it can cause, let's say, isolation, feeling alone. It can cause, let's say, a bias against certain people. It can even cause hatred, right? Think about all of the statements that I gave you examples of, right? Somewhere or the other, it causes hatred, it causes anger, it causes fear, it causes defensiveness. And guess what? None of this are what you need, right? When I asked you to think about what you need, it's very likely that you must have thought about happiness, you must have thought about health, you must have thought about family, you must have thought about success, achievement. None of us thought about anger. None of us thought about that we want anger, that we want fear, that we want defenses, right? None of us thought that. Why? Because as human beings, we don't want that, right? As human beings, what unites us is the fact that we want completely different things, right? And just because of social conditioning, we've learned how to express our needs in violent ways, which is not helping us, which is taking us further away from our needs, right? Therefore, with non-violent communication, what happens? By communicating non-violently, we are trying to foster compassion, right? We're trying to get more compassion within ourselves, between people. We are trying to feel more connected with our needs, right? So that is the core of this presentation today. Why are we learning how to communicate violently? There are two simple reasons. Number one is it's because we are trying to get more compassionate within ourselves and between people. And the second reason is that we are trying to feel more connected to our core needs, right? Does that make sense? Okay. Now I'm going to talk a little bit about how to communicate non-violently, right? Before that, if there is any question about what we've discussed so far, please feel free to ask. I'm going to pause for like 20 seconds here. Okay, now I'm going to give you two examples, right? What you see on your screen right now, these are steps to non-violent thinking and communication, and we'll be speaking about it in detail, right? But right now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you examples of two statements, and what I want you to do is tell me what is just an observation and what has an observation with evaluation. Okay, so my first statement is um, Rahul has been watching TV all day. Okay, that is my first sentence. My second sentence is Rahul must be really lazy. He's been sitting at one place and watching TV all day. Okay, so in these two statements, what is an observation? Which one was an observation and which one was observation plus evaluation? He's been watching TV all day versus he's been watching TV all day, he must be lazy. Right. So the first one, right? The first one is just an observation, whereas the second one is an observation and an evaluation, right? So when I am observing, what is important is that my observation has to remain just an observation, right? My observation should not have an evaluation in it, which is the first mistake we make while we are communicating with people who are close to us, with people who we work with. What we say is that you're too selfish, or why can't you even ever think of me, right? It's only your feelings matter to you, or how much work do you want me to do you not care about my life, right? These are all evaluations that we are making, right, from our observations. And when we communicate our evaluations instead of our observations, what we do is we make the person more likely to respond in an angry way, because what they are hearing is criticism, right? They feel like you're speaking bad about them when you say you're selfish, right? Because that's the only thing they hear. They can't hear that what you want is, I want you to pay attention to me, right? They don't hear that need. What they hear from you is you telling them that they're selfish, and that's it. That's enough to make them angry, right? So the first step to non-violent communication is to make very clear what is an evaluation and what is an observation, and only communicate your observation. For example, you've been watching TV all day, right? Observation is what you see, it's what you hear, it's what you touch, right? It's very real. Observations are facts, right? So people can't get angry with you about stating facts. If you just say that, hey, you've been watching TV today, it's not as infuriating as saying that he's lazy, he's watching TV all day. right? So firstly, only your observations, right? And the next thing is speak about the feelings. Now feelings are something that we find very, very difficult to express, and the reason for that is because in India, especially, right, men showing feelings is something that is not considered good at all, right? If men cry, if men show that they are upset or they're sad or they're feeling lonely, it's some we feel like it's not right, right? So generally it's very difficult for people to communicate how they feel because that's not the way we've been doing it usually, right? We don't always encourage it, right? So it's a little difficult in the first place, which is why I want you to look at this at the screen that I will show you, and I want you to um, take a picture of this, right? So I want you to just take a picture of this. Now let me explain what the picture is. It's something that is helpful for us to understand our core feelings, our emotions better, right? It's more we understand it more closely. Now you see on the left hand side, can you see the light, medium and strong? So that conveys how intense our emotion is, right? And on top you can see the different emotions that one could feel: happiness, caring, depression, inadequate, fear, confusion, hurt, anger, loneliness, remorse. These are the different kinds of feelings that one could feel, and depending on whether it is intense or not intense, we could be feeling a range of different things, right? So the reason why I asked you to take a picture of it is because we can get into the practice slowly, that when we're feeling something, when we're feeling a little unpleasant, right, when we're feeling like something is not okay, we don't have the practice of understanding, stopping and asking ourselves, what happened? What am I feeling? Why am I feeling like this? Right? We don't have that habit. Instead, what we tend to do is, I don't want to be feeling unpleasant. Let me go and meet some friends. Right? Or I shouldn't be feeling like this. Maybe I should go for a walk and snap out of it. Get out of this, right? Life is not, we are not meant to be sad in life. But when we use such strategies, it's not always helpful because you can't always be 100% happy in life, right? Sometimes you are going to feel unpleasant emotions, and especially with our loved ones, especially with people who are close to us, we do experience unpleasantness, we do experience discomfort, and it's important for us to understand that in order to communicate it, right? So as of now, we have discussed two things, right? We know for a fact that the next time we're communicating with somebody, we have to do the first two steps. We've understood. The first thing is concentrate just on what you observe, right? Leave out your judgments, leave out your evaluation, leave out your opinion about it, right? First and foremost, let's concentrate on what we're observing, what we see, what we hear. Second thing is speak about how you're feeling, right? What is your emotion? What is your feeling? And I gave you a list of feelings to choose from in case it is new, in case you're not used to doing it, right? For example, let's say that somebody in the family wants to spend more time, right? So one, they can say that lately I have been noticing that you've been working a lot more. It makes me feel lonely, right? And the third one is need. I need to spend more time with you. I need to feel more connected with you. And the last one is a request. Do you think we can make some time in the weekend? right? So the whole statement would be like this. The whole statement would read, lately I've been noticing that you've been working a lot more. It makes me feel very lonely. I need to feel more connected with you. Do you think we can make time for it in the weekend? Right? That is one way of communicating it. But but the way that we're used to communicating it is by saying that you're always working. You never have time to listen to what I have to say. I know you don't care about me anymore. Right? So when we say it, the way we communicate that same need makes so much of a difference, right? Because in the second one, the first thing that the person will hear is you criticizing them, right? So they will say something like, I have a lot of work, that's why I have to work all the time, right? As opposed to when you say, do you think we can make time for it in the weekend, they'll say, yeah, I can try. That, yeah, true, maybe we'll see what we can do, right? So here what I am saying is, at the core of it, all of us, all human beings, we want and we need similar things, right? It's just that that violent way of communication and thinking, because of socializing, that's become the norm. We feel like that's normal, right? But it takes us far away from what we truly want. So these steps that you see on your slide right now are easier ways to get ourselves what we want, right? For example, the need, right? What are some of the needs that we have? Remember, in the beginning of this call, in the beginning of this presentation, I asked you to think about some core needs that you have, right? Some life needs that are important to you, right? This is the core of it, right? We are communicating because we have needs, right? um when I'm telling myself I'm good for nothing, right? That's we tell each other, we tell ourselves that, right? We tell ourselves I'm good for nothing, I'm useless. What we're actually saying maybe is that I need to feel successful, right? I need to feel like I've achieved something. I need financial gain, right? Maybe that's what we truly want. But when we say I'm useless, I'm hopeless, instead of saying I need to feel successful, right? I need to want to see myself succeed. When instead of saying that, if we say I'm useless, what we're doing is we're putting ourselves down. We're criticizing ourselves, right? And therefore it takes us further away from what we truly want and what we truly need, right? So here what I am saying is, in the third point, when you are communicating, is to focus on the need and not who is wrong and what is bad, right? Because in this instance, then satisfaction is more likely, right? um does that make sense? Yeah. Again, like I said, please stop me and please correct me. Please ask me if there's anything that you want me to clarify, right? The end is the request, right? This really makes a difference when you are communicating, because when you're ending with a request, the person feels like you're talking to them like an equal, right? They also feel important in the conversation. They feel like they are respected, they feel like their opinion matters, and therefore they are listening more intently towards what you're saying, right? For example, do you think we can make time in the weekend? Or um do you think we can talk to someone about how to stop drinking alcohol? Or do you think we can get some help? Or maybe even to say, let's say, let's take the sun's example, right? When you say that, hey, I noticed that you have been watching TV the whole day. I feel very disturbed to watch you do that. I need you to also go outside and get some exercise. Do you think we can go out for a walk? Yeah. This is a non-violent way of communication, as opposed to saying that you've been watching TV all day, you're a lazy person. Yeah. Okay. So take a picture of this if you want. If you realize that this is something that you do, if you realize that you tend to make moral judgments, that you tend to speak about what's wrong, or if that's the way that we usually think, which all of us, for all of us, it is the case, then using these steps is a good starting point, right? And you'd notice that instantly it makes a huge difference in our relationships with others as well as in our relationship with ourselves. Yeah. Okay. So is there any question until now? All right. So before we move on to this section, I do want to read some statements out to you, right? And I want you to tell me what the need is that the person is experiencing, right? I'm going to give you a sentence, and you have to tell me why is the person saying this, right? What could the person be needing, which is making them say this? Okay, ready? You irritate me when you leave company documents on the floor. Yeah, the person is saying this. What do you think they need? You irritate me when you leave company documents on the conference room floor. Any idea what the person might be needing?
He maybe need to keep the documents in order.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, what the person is actually trying to say is, I want some orderliness. I want the room to be more neat. Yeah. So, let's say if we're communicating non-violently using the steps that are mentioned on the slide right now, any idea how the person could say it? It's a bit long, maybe, so I'll just do the first one. The person could say that I've been noticing the company documents on the floor. Um, makes me feel very uncomfortable. I need the room to be more neat. Could we tidy it up? Right? Okay. Now the second one. Again, you have to tell me the need, right? I feel angry when you say that because I am wanting respect and I hear your words as an insult, right? So here basically the person is communicating their need when they say that I want respect. Yeah. The third one, I feel frustrated when you come late. This is easy. I feel frustrated when you come late. What is the person needing?
Who wants that person to come early?
Yeah. Wants the person to come early, wants the person to be on time, does not want to wait, maybe, right? Wants to feel respected. Could be a lot of things. The fourth one, I'm sad that you won't be coming for dinner because I was hoping we could spend the evening together, right? This again is a really good way of communicating your need, as you can see, right? The person is using feelings and saying, I'm sad, and the person is saying their need, right? This person is saying, I was hoping we could spend the evening together. right?
Yeah.
So here, this is a good way of communicating non-violently, as opposed to, let's say, how could you cancel on me? We've been planning this for so long. Do not care about this. So, as you can see, if a person says, I'm sad that you won't be coming for dinner because I'm hoping we could spend the evening together, maybe the chances of them hearing that, yeah, I also wanted to spend the evening together, I'm sorry it could not happen, right? It's higher, it's more likely that they will hear a response like that to this, as opposed to them saying, you don't care about me, how could you cancel, right? The last one, I feel disappointed because you said you wouldn't do it and you did, right? Here again, they are communicating their feelings and they're communicating what they want, right? So I just wanted to do this exercise with you because I really wanted to make sure that it's clear as to what I am saying, right? It does involve a little bit of practice. With anything, it involves practice, right? But if we can start using this, at least in our own thinking, in our own minds, if we can start using this, right? Instead of looking at what is wrong with the person, what is bad in the person, to look at what they need. Why are they behaving like that, right? Uh, n- Please, I'm going to ask you a question. Please tell me how many of you have heard of how many of you have heard of Adolf Hitler?
Could you repeat the word?
I said, how many of you have heard of Hitler?
Hitler. Yeah, I heard.
Yeah. Okay. So it's just can all of you just raise your hands if you've heard of Hitler? Okay. So a lot of us have heard, right? We also use that term and say he's like a Hitler, right? When somebody is really strict, we usually say he's like a Hitler. Why do we say that? Hitler is somebody who had ordered for a lot of policies against a certain community in Germany, right? So, as in accordance to a lot of policies that Hitler had come out with, one particular community faced a lot of discrimination under those policies, right? This people of this community were brought together. Whoever was fit to work was made to work without any money, very, very little food. And if the person was ill, then they were just, they were just not meant to work and they would just kill them, right? So they lived under very, very difficult circumstances, people of this community, because of certain policies that were made at that point in time, right? Imagine having to work for no money, having very little food, living in very poor conditions, people falling ill. There was obviously verbal and physical abuse, violence. um, it was very difficult to live and survive under such conditions, right? In such a circumstance, what do you think would be a person's natural response, right? If you were part of that community living in that kind of a condition at that point in time, it's not very difficult to think that you would live in fear, right? It would be very scary, it would be very infuriating. One would feel very angry that why me, why my community, why is this happening to us, what have we ever done, right? In such a circumstance, people have actually found the diary of someone who went through an experience like this. And I want to read out a small paragraph from her diary, right? This is what she has written in her diary. I'm not easily frightened. Not because I'm brave, but because I know that I'm dealing with human beings and that I must try as hard as I can to understand everything that anyone ever does. And that was the real important thing in this morning. Not that an angry young officer yelled at me. I felt no disrespect. Rather, I felt compassion. And I wanted to ask, did you have a very unhappy childhood? Has your girlfriend let you down? He looked very angry and upset. And I know that it's often people who are really sad that behave like this. Right? So why did I read this out to you? I read this out to you because someone who was in such an extreme condition, right? Somebody who was being exposed to the worst of circumstances in life has written in their diary not about hatred, not about anger, not about um a bias against anybody. She's not even saying that it's wrong. What this person is just saying is that I want to understand why the person is doing this, right? I want to understand what is the cause. Did he have a unhappy childhood? Did his girlfriend let him down, right? And I know that he must be really sad if he's behaving like this. Now, this is a true definition of nonviolent communication, right? Because what the person is actually doing is trying to understand what the other person needs, right? Is trying to be compassionate with the other person, right? And I know that we are all human, right? We can't aim for that maybe right now, especially when we're starting. But what we can aim to do is make little changes in the way we think, right? When something irritates us in our everyday life, to think about what does the person want. When we irritate ourselves, when we are angry with ourselves, to think about why did I do this? What did I really want to achieve by doing this? Right? Remember that at the core of language, at the core of communication, at the core of our behaviors, we all have needs, right? And violence is just a very poor way of expressing those needs. And in this talk, through these 4 steps, we've realized a simpler way of communicating our core needs. Yeah. Okay, we're almost down to the end of this presentation. And I want to speak about inner needs, right? For this, there's a small exercise that I want you to do. If you're willing to do this exercise with me, can you please raise your hand? Some people already have your hands raised, I think, from the previous question. So just unraise and raise again so that I can decide whether you'd like to do this. All right. So what you have to do for this is you will have to take a piece of paper and write down in life generally, right? Think about your work life, think about your family life, think about your personal life, your life with your friends. Think about everything that you do because you think you have to do it.
Sometimes we do which by unknowingly, that also should be right.
Sorry?
Sometimes we do unknowingly, but after we realize, oh, I have done this. So should
Like
I
for
also?
example, let me give you an example of what I'm saying. I'm saying that in my life, right? I'll give you I'll tell you an actual story. Right now I'm going for swimming classes. Right, I'm actually very scared of water, and I never learned swimming when I was a child. Right, and now finally I decided to go for swimming classes because my family has made a trip to go to a resort, and everybody knows how to swim except me. Right, so I have joined swimming classes, and I am telling myself I have to go for swimming because everybody knows how to swim, only I don't know how to swim. Right? So all the have tos in your life, all the shoulds, right? I should be the best at work, or I have to finish office reports. I have to learn how to swim. I have to be nice to my mother in law, right? All the things that you think you have to do, but you don't like to do.
Okay.
All the things in life that you think you have to do, but you don't like to do. For example, with me, as it becomes time for swimming class, I start getting scared. so, um, so yeah, just think about those things in your personal life. Are you done?
Yes.
Okay. So the next step in this activity is to then write the same sentence but start the sentence with I choose to. I choose to go to swimming class. I choose to be nice to my mother in law. I choose to complete office documents, office reports. Right? So write the same thing but start the sentence with I choose to. Right? So the first step was to think about all the things you have to do but you don't like to do. The second step was to write I choose to, followed by the activity. Right? Now think about why do you do it? Actually, why do you do it? For example, I choose to be nice to my mother in law because it's important to my spouse. I choose to be nice to my mother in law because it's important to my spouse. I choose to complete office reports because I need my job, right? I choose to go to swimming class because I would like to have fun with my family. So, what we are doing here in the third step of this exercise is to connect us to why we want something, why we are doing something. It's to really connect with ourselves, right? Like I said, when we use words like should and must and have to, what happens is that we can feel very disconnected with ourselves. We can feel like we don't have compassion for ourselves. We don't connect with ourselves closely, right? So, in this exercise, what I am doing is I'm asking you to connect inner, with your inner demands, with your inner needs. Right. So, what I do want you to understand about this, when we have very rigid expectations, rigid demands from ourselves, when we use the word should a lot, I should do this, I should not do this, it 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 creates an atmosphere of shame, if supposing it does not happen. It creates an atmosphere of self-hatred, and all of us as human beings like choice, right? We like independence, we like to choose what we want for ourselves. So when we feel like there's no choice involved, it can make us feel very dejected and demotivated about the task that's at hand, right? So the first thing is to evaluate and to understand the things that you are doing in your life that you don't like to do, and think about, is there another way that I can think about this activity, right? Why am I really doing this activity? I am choosing to do it. I don't really have to do it. There will be consequences, yes, but I'm choosing to do it because of this reason, right? If the reason is not good enough to you, you can even drop the activity. But if the reason is important enough, you will want to continue that activity. And it's important also to understand that when we are judging ourselves as lazy, as useless, as selfish, as greedy, as unlovable, what we are actually saying is that we have inner needs, right? We have inner demands. So in that activity where I gave you statements and you found out what the person actually needs, we have to do that for ourselves, right? When we are behaving in certain ways, when we use a certain language with ourselves, when we say, for example, I'm useless, what I am actually saying is that I want to be good at swimming. What I am actually saying is that I want to be good at this activity, I want to achieve this, I want to learn a new skill, I want to be free of fear, right? That's actually what I am saying. So, to understand that whenever you're judging yourself, what is actually behind that judgment is a need that really wants to be heard, right? So, give it a voice, give it your time, and listen to what it's saying so you can foster that compassion for yourself, right? Self forgiveness will happen only when you understand the reasons for the things that you do, right? For example, maybe that when we hit our child, right, we may tend to feel really guilty about it, right? And it might be hard for us to forgive ourselves because the child has cried a lot and is feeling really bad about it. So when you're trying to grow from that experience, when you're trying to forgive and let go, um, forgive yourself and let go of that experience. What you are trying to do is actually understand the need for why you did that, right? I was frustrated, maybe. I want to find another way to cope with my frustration. Or let's say I want my child to listen to me, but I want a better way to be heard, right? I don't want to raise my hand. I just want a better way to be heard, right? So that self forgiveness and liberating, letting go happens when we are able to connect with our inner needs, with our inner demands, right? I'm going back to the first activity in this presentation that I asked you to do, where I asked you to think about the needs that are important. If you didn't do that in the beginning of this talk, do give it some time after the talk at least, because I feel like so many of life's decisions that we make will be centered, will be based on those needs that are important to us, right? So, lastly, the needs can also be used to resolve conflicts, right? For instance, we need to, like I said, follow the first four steps that I told you, right? Observe and speak about your feelings, communicate your needs, and make a request, right? So, this is step number one of conflict resolution, where you're able to express yourself in the first four steps that I told you. After that, step number two is to search for the same thing in the other person's response, right? Usually, people, you've attended this talk, right? Maybe you start practicing it as well. But for people, maybe it doesn't happen at the same time, right? So they still communicate violently towards you, right? Like in the diary of the person that I read, she was still experiencing violence towards her, but she chose not to continue that cycle, right? So your first step is to express your needs, and the second step is to search for the other person's needs in what they are telling you, right? So if they are telling you that they are frustrated that you never come on time, what they are actually asking is, let's say, that you be on time and that you respect their time, right? So no matter what the other person says, even if they make judgments, even if they insult, try looking for what their needs are, right? And the third step is to communicate and agree what each other's needs are. Maybe one person wants more independence in the relationship and the other person wants more closeness, right? So when you acknowledge what both parties want, it's easier to find a solution that is satisfactory for both, right? So you experience the need, look for the need in the other person, express and acknowledge and agree upon both parties' needs, right? And then think about what can be done, right? Usually we tend to say, leave it, I don't want to talk about it anymore. You are this, or you are that, or you can never do this, you always do this, right? But instead, I'm saying use action words to say that let's do this, right? Let's try spending more time. Let's try doing something a little different this weekend, right? Using action verbs, things that are actionable, things that can be done, and focus on what's yet to come. Instead of saying that you always do this, 5 times this has happened before, instead of that, you say, from now, how can we make it a little different, right? So this brings us to the end of the presentation. I hope it was clear enough. I didn't get to hear much from you in this presentation. That makes me a little worried about whether I was clear. So do let me know in case there are any questions. Even if there are personal questions, you can put it down in the chat box and I'll try my best to answer it.
Yeah, I need a question. Sorry, I have a question.
Sure.
Yeah, sometimes we communicate non-violently with our friends, thinking that is friendly conversation. For example, when you start the session, you are talking too much. That you said example of non-violence, but that we repeatedly using with our friends. Is it considered as non-violence because that person is or me not getting hurt, or we are ignoring that feeling as non-violence? How to take this one?
That's a really good question. I think it would be considered non-violent as long as it does not harm the person, it does not hurt the person, it does not block compassion, right? Means
Okay.
to say that you're still being sensitive, right? If the person was hurt and you're
Mm.
still talking too much, right? There are some instances with the same person that sometimes they may feel upset, sometimes they may not feel upset. And that's again upon the context, right? If you say it in the context of a fight, then the person may get upset and it may escalate. But if you're saying it in the context of play, in the context of just where both parties are just laughing and, having a good time, then of course it's not hurtful, it's not harmful, and therefore not violent.
Thank you.
Right, so basically I think it's a good way to start because it sort of helps us understand ourselves, it helps us understand our people as well, therefore it improves our relationship with others, our relationship with ourselves, and like I said, it even speaks about conflict resolution, right? um so it so this is not a typical way that we usually think, but if we can include this in our way of thinking, in our way of speaking, I think it will make big difference in how we handle situations.
Nirish, are we waiting for some questions or
Not really.
okay? Shri, shall
In that,
we wrap up? Shall I?
Yeah, we can wrap up. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. So I just like to give some incident which I experienced in this context. One of my superior used to say some has to non-violent sentences when I joined. So I thought, why he's so rude to his colleagues that we are new? Why he's doing this? But later, when I spoke to them regularly, I could understand he's finding difficult to get the words, so without using right word to a right situation, right sentence, so it seems like it is rude and becoming non-violent communication. So when you shared this feeling words chart, I could really connect to that sense. Yeah, sometimes without knowing right word, we use unknowingly that hurts people. That becomes non-violent communication. So thank you, Shriyan, for this wonderful session today we had, which is really a very good topic, uh, which has to be practiced by everyone one who is working in all the sectors, not only in child protection, but in all the sectors, including in our family. We sometimes unknowingly hurt people even while comparing, even we give some moral judgments to people that really hurts them, but we forget to notice that. So today you really brought it the importance of being non-judgmental and not to compare with other people if it really hurts and so on. You gave us a good explanation of what is violent communication, that the examples you gave which make us think, okay, this is what the violent communication examples, that was really good, and how it impacts in our everyday life, That is a wonderful thing which make us understand again. And you also brought up the steps how to be a non-violent communicator. Like we have to observe and feel, connect to the feeling which I have and what need I want from that person, and a kind of request that I can say to that person. This is the non-violent communication, which I learned today. Hope other participants also would have got some sense on this, especially the examples which you linked was very helpful to us to understand. It is good. And also how it affects our own self. That was wonderful exercise we had. I just wrote only two things, personal and work related thing. In personal, I could just say I want to get up early, which is very difficult for me. But why I'm doing it, I now started thinking, okay, why I'm doing it, then I could connect to my need. Yeah, this is what I'm doing it, but still I'm finding struggle. Maybe I will try to express it. And how it relates, why, because so that need what I wanted to achieve, that really helps me to connect to myself to be non-violent. Sometimes I become violent when people say get up early, so that it, personally it helps me a lot. So conflict resolution which you spoke was overall thing what we have learned in this session. You have brought it up in a nice way. Yes, we acknowledge each person's need. That is very important in all the context, all the setup. So overall, it was a wonderful session, and I hope participants would have also enjoyed much. Thank you, Shriyan, for the beautifully you have taken that session. So thank you for that. I request Pratik to
Whatever,
propose. Yeah.
whatever doubts the presenter has, whether
Hmm.
they've been clear, I think in your summary it always gets um, answered. Your summaries are always very thoughtful. Thank you so much for sharing your personal thoughts as well. It's
Yeah.
very
Thank
nice.
you. Thank you. Pratik.
Okay, let me express a word of thanks today.
Yeah.
I especially thank Shreya for doing the webinar single-handedly from Alternative Story. It was indeed a really wonderful session that we had, but as we all know, that participation is a little bit worrying, because as you think that people are the participants, the expected participants are a little bit, all over the zone, a bit busy with some of the uh, work that that are to be accomplished. I think that is a reason for the less number of participation here now today. But apologies for that. Uh, Otherwise, it was such a great session. I think people will view it on YouTube, because it is going to be there for a quite a lot of time. So already we have received some requests from some of the people that if it is available in kind of a uh, which can be viewed later, they will be happy to do it. And I told them that it will be available on YouTube already. So we shouldn't worry about the number of participation where the program is conducted, but definitely the YouTube version or the streaming on YouTube will be viewed again. And I would also like to thank the people who came up for welcoming Vajanti and Sukendu, who set the tone for the webinar today, and also Surya for giving her conclusion and some of her personal experiences, which made us more beautiful. And also, I thank all the participants today on YouTube as well as on Zoom who have come find the time to attend this program. I also thank HCL Foundation who made this possible for CIF to conduct a series of webinars uh, from Alternative Story. And finally, I thank all of you and look forward for the next series of webinars. Thank you, one and all.
Thank you.
Thank you all.